Testing sound. Cool. Good morning. Today is April 21st. The market's just opened in the last 20 seconds. We're trading the Nasdaq. As always, for those who are just clicking onto the video, feel free to skip to the end of the video and I'll recap whatever trades I took during the day. Yesterday got wrecked because of the cumulative delta divergence. Ended up not being accurate. I did go read and take a look. I guess I did my research, my homework, right, on cumulative delta to make sure I wasn't looking at it wrong, and I wasn't. It was just really unfortunate that, you know, cumulative delta pushed up the way it did, and then the stock, not the stock, and then the Nasdaq, decided to sell off like that. Very strange. I don't really have much of an explanation for why that happened. I wasn't the only person who got wrecked by that, but it is what it is. We're back in here the next day. Disclaimer, something I didn't realize was that I usually stop at like $1,500. If I'm down 1,500 on the day, I will stop. Unfortunately, I went just over the 1,500 yesterday, and I didn't realize that the weekly loss limit was right there. So I went over it by a little bit, and so ended up having to reset this morning when I got an email from Topstep. So we are in a reset. You can see it's I think that's on the screen there. 150K step 2 reset. Starting over from scratch, and I'm gonna make a couple of tweaks. I'm not gonna look at the 30-minute, hour, or even 15-minute. I'm not gonna look at the 200 EMAs anymore. I'm just gonna look solely at the trend and what the trend line is looking like for the day, and just trade in that direction solely based off the trend lines. Cumulative delta, I'll have it here just as an idea. Not to like blame anything, but cumulative delta is the only reason that I had a losing day yesterday, and so I think I'm just tired of all the indicators in general. I've gotten rid of everything except the VWAP bands, just so I know where VWAP is, and then I still have delta on there, so I have an idea of what the momentum and trend is supposed to look like, but I'm just going to kind of take it with a grain of salt, and it'll be, just kind of on the back of my mind, not something that I'm really focused on anymore. Anyway, for today, it looks like the Nasdaq is pretty choppy open to start the day. We'll just be patient, we'll chill, see what it wants to do, let the market show its hand, and then we'll get after it. I'm gonna draw a quick volume profile here just to see what the overnight hours looks like. Looks fairly standard. Looks like we're just below where the volume high would be, or I'm sorry, where point of control is. See if it can't test and push through there, or if it wants to come down off of it. Sorry, I know I'm moving my charts a lot. What I am going to do is I'm going to continue the one contract trading. I definitely know I'm more comfortable trading 3 contracts and just going for quick scalps. But I'm going to continue to try and do the whole scale in strategy and see if I can't get that to work. Just because I think there is more longevity, and it is harder to lose an account trading one contract and scaling up to 3 rather than just entering with 3 right off the bat. At least in theory it should be. Little downtrend forming here, just a very small one. We'll see if it wants to break above and start pushing up above that line. If not, if we can get a break down, then I would look to short off of whatever pullback. I'm not going to add just yet. I don't know what's going on with my screen. Looks weird again. I think the screen adjusted. Very strange. Okay, trend line was broken, but the market is still chopping sideways. Very indecisive here. Just gonna continue to be patient. You gotta let the market break out of this range, out of these areas before participating. I know some people like to, just draw a line at the top and buy off the top, and they'll short off the top, sorry, and then buy off the bottoms, but not my style. I'm not good at trading when it's sideways like this, so we'll wait and see if it can't get to one side or the other. Back at the bottom, see if it wants to actually break through this time, or if it just wants to rotate right back up. Just noting that the delta is sloped downwards here. So at the moment, I would rather be short than long, even if it pushes back up here. As long as it doesn't break out, right? I would be looking to go short before long. Will we get a break, or will it be a fake out? Hard to tell. Not looking like it actually wants to come up anymore. Looking like it's trying but having a hard time. We'll see if it can. Delta's still sloping downwards. Okay, there's a bit of a break there. Got bought up very quickly. We'll see if it can't go back down. Okay, quick flush down to the -3. We'll wait for a pullback somewhere. See if we can't get back to the bottom of the range that was formed here around the 730 level in short. May not even be able to get up there, but we'll wait and see. Contact is bugging me. Looking at the ES looks like it wants to push up. I have a feeling that it's going to take the NAS with it. Or maybe the NAS is pulling the ES upwards, I don't know. Either way, they look very correlated at the moment.
Order filled.
And a short one here. If it continues against us, I will continue to short all the way through this range, but I think if it breaks through the top of the range here, I'm just out of it. I put another one here at VWAP. Every time I take a trade, I'm always comparing to what would be the result versus if I was trading the way I would usually trade. And on 3 contracts, just this little movement here, I would have moved my stop up to break even, so I'd be out of this already. Just a totally different style. The way this is pushing up, I'm not sure if I really want to add at VWAP necessarily, unless I see it actually bounce. I like that sellers at least somewhat came in here, right? And it didn't just rocket up. Let's see how far they can flush the market. Not very far on that push. Trying to stay patient here, trying to let this upward momentum exhaust itself and see if we can't get back to the short side and try for a low on the day. Try for a new low. Moving my second entry off a bit. I don't want it to start pushing really hard and then I just end up getting wrecked on 2 contracts for no reason. Just delete it. Well, it looks like it's going to totally just break the range completely.
Stop filled.
Okay, so stopped out there. Down 875. I almost want to experiment and just take the break,
Order filled.
which I normally don't do this, but let's just do what I normally don't do since what I usually do is not working. We'll just take the break. I mean, if the market wants to push up, then by all means go ahead. Just don't, decide to flip and go the opposite direction all of a sudden. We'll look to add probably on like a VWAP bounce here or at the node or both. I'm trying to see what resistance that I'm going up against now. Mixed feelings. Almost don't know if I even want this trade to work because what I just did here is something that I would consider wrong. Usually I would never take a trade like this. And so if this profits, it's just kind of like there's almost like no rhyme or reason to anything. Like it should be waiting for a pullback to buy and then like continue. Or maybe I could have cut off the other one closer as soon as it crossed VWAP and longed there. But again, I don't like to take trades on breaks of VWAP because you have a lot of this type of movement that happens at VWAP where it, either chops back and forth or has VWAP bounces or whatever. ES pushing, ES trying to get through the pivot point, having a hard time with it though.
Order filled.
Adding a second. Right at the same level. Again, something I wouldn't do. Wouldn't normally buy right at my entry, my previous entry. Let's merge these. That's a weird bar. This green bar should be red.
Order filled.
Adding a third here. Again, just kind of sort of doing what I wouldn't normally do. For those watching, this is purely for entertainment purposes. The stuff I'm doing right now is not correct. There's really no rhyme or reason to it besides do the opposite of what I would normally do. Looking at the hour chart, I would say if there's anything it could reach, it would probably be there. Should be able to reach that. I don't see why it couldn't. Just delete the take profit. I'll just move the stop up as far as it wants to give me. I'll just keep following my bars, right? If it decides to shoot off to wherever, then I'll collect whatever it gives.
Stop filled.
Okay, stopped out there. Uh, don't know how to feel about that trade. Like glad that it put me back at. I guess I'm up 295 on the day, which is great, but I don't like the way that it happened. It almost makes me just want to go back to trading my 3 contracts and just stay at that. I know that my problem there is not so much that I can't get funded. It's very easy for me to get funded using the 3 contracts. And the way that I trade and scalp there, it's just hard to stay funded for a long period of time because inevitably you're going to have a day or two where it just doesn't work. It just goes against you, and then you're hitting like a weekly loss limit, or you're hitting like getting close to a daily limit, or just whatever. It's just kind of inevitable, which is why I'm trying to figure out how to scale in over a longer time frame. But it just seems like it's so much harder to be correct over the course of, let's say, any 10-minute period, whereas I can see the delta smashing in one direction and see the market ripping in a direction, or about to change direction or bouncing off of something, and just short or long. And as soon as my stop goes profitable, just move it up and collect whatever is there. And if the thing wants to keep pushing and become a really big winner, then sometimes that happens, and you have those big winners that are in the thousands. But most of the time you're gonna get like a $200 to $300, just a quick scalp, and it's just easier to have a lot of those quick scalps with the occasional big winner, which offsets the occasional loser that's gonna be like 1,000 on 3 contracts. So I don't know. I'll keep trying the scaling thing until I get sick of it or just have to reset so many times that I just can't afford it anymore. I'm sure I'll get sick of it before that.
Order filled.
Looks like a good place to add one. I like the way that it's trending up here. What I'm trying to avoid is the alternative that, like, example, so if I'm trading, so on this trade, I would be trading 3 contracts. I would have moved my stop up already, and this at one point was up 300. I'm sorry, it was up 100. That 100 would be the equivalent of 300 on 3 contracts, right? So I would have my stop at the bottom at 790. I'm looking at 790. 790 here is roughly, I don't know, $15. That'd be $45 on 3 contracts, and by here I would have moved it up to the bottom of this node, and I would just keep creeping up, and I'll have a lot of trades like this where I'll have very small winners that are under $200, but those trades add up, and most of the time I'm not taking any drawdown, because seeing these types of moves where it bounces like this and then it moves up and you enter and it moves up a little more and you can just lock in something that's at least profitable or just above break even is very easy. I could probably take 10, 20 trades that would allow me to lock in break even or a little above break even before I had a losing trade, which is why I think I like trading the 3 contracts. But again, eventually you have that trade where you buy it and it just goes into the red and never goes into the green, and then you end up taking a loss that eclipses everything, and eventually loses the account. So trying to avoid that, probably another way to do it would be to, instead of just trading 3 contracts, just trade 1 contract, right? But I guess that's kind of a mental thing for me, is trading 1 contract. I would have had to have gotten out of this at like $15, which I know seems insignificant. It seems insignificant. Truth is, it's not. $15 is $15. I think I'll keep scaling until VWAP. How far away am I here? Let's make it an even 1,000. $89 to $39, basically saying I need 50 points of space to be correct, for it to bounce within 50 points of my initial entry. My only apprehension here is, as much as I want to say this is a big push and it should be able to continue back to the upside, is the Nasdaq is capable of ranging, from 805 down to 705. Like, that's basically 100 points, and the Nasdaq is more than capable of rotating up and down 100 points all day long.
Order filled.
Adding a second. Looks like it's gaining some steam, trying to get back to the long side. See if it can or not. Oh man. I am enjoying not having all these indicators though. I mean, I still have delta here, but not really paying too much attention to it. Really just looking at the formation of the range bars and volume itself. I want to see this push here, and I want to see this go into, get over my entry price or my average in price here. If not, I think I will look to take one off quickly. No, excuse me. I want to see a push here. Good. Do that.
Stop filled.
Took one off. Take one off just so it gives me a little bit more wiggle room in case this thing does decide to come against me. If it continues to run up, then, we'll just hold the one contract for a long time. Let's see if today can actually trend. I wouldn't consider the market trending just yet. Let's see, it sold off first and then came up. We're at the top of, top of the day. Technically on the day we're not even positive. The Nasdaq is still in the red on the day, so definitely can't consider this a trending day. But would like to see it push up here. not a fan of how this looks. I want to see it get back to the upside. I don't want to see this become a peak and then, forms a lower high and it starts coming down. I want to see it at least break the +2. Trying to get a sense for how much conviction this thing has. Do I think it's actually going to break above? I really want to say yeah, I think it will, and so I really want to add, but I don't want to be wrong on 2 contracts. Coming back down. Looks like it's trying to bust our range here. Like I said, I normally don't add right at my entry price, but I will
Order filled.
now. I'll just try to capture whatever I can on the 1 contract. Oop. This one looks like it may hurt me. Just moving that stop up somewhere profitable. I'm going to take profit up there.
Stop filled.
Just get myself out of at least one contract there. Formed a nice wedge here, forming a wedge. This thing could push up or down. Delta's still sloped down, so Delta's saying a little more to the downside. Price action on the day would say more to the long side. Could just go sideways and be neither. We'll see. Looking bearish here. The answer may be to just cut it off. Just cut it all off entirely and look for a new trade. approaching the 50-minute mark on the day. This. If that breaks under there and goes and makes a new low, then I'm just gonna flip short on the day. If it decides to push up and go pay me somewhere, then that's wonderful, right? That's what we want. But if not, I'm not gonna keep being stubborn and try to go long on something that, while I think this whole move, just make this smaller. Well, I think this move here indicates that we're going to go long on the day. If at the moment it's not doing that and it's trying to go short, I'm not going to fight it anymore. Because I think I'm fighting because I think I'm correct on the overall day. And most days I have been correct on the overall day. But like the moments in between, I'm just getting destroyed because it just pushes so far.
Stop filled.
Okay. So that one stopped us out. A bit of a loss there. Still up 200, 205 on the day.
Order filled.
Just gonna go short right away. If it pulls back and starts coming up to the top of the range, and we'll just scale all through the range. So it'll have to bust through the range and actually go long for me to be completely done with this trade, which it very well could. Very well could change its mind and start going long, which will suck, but man, I don't know anymore. It looks like it wants to come down, so I'm just gonna let it. That's kind of my fear here, is that I'm always like a step behind, right? It looks like it wants to come down, so I start going short, but then it starts coming up right when I'm getting in short. So I feel like I'm at risk of always being a little bit behind here, but at least for right now, it's working out. So let's see if we can get through VWAP. Again, I still think I like my 3 contract style better, as I would have moved my stop profitable probably to the body of this previous red candle, and whatever it would have been was whatever I would have taken on that one. Would have been a quick in and out. Okay. Can draw a little trend line here. Pretty obvious, pretty visible. We'll see if it wants to break above.
Order filled.
Added a second contract there. Might have not been a good move though, because looking at the ES looks like it's pushing, and the Nasdaq tends to follow it. This is what I meant by I feel like I'm going to end up being a step behind always if I was to flip short like that there. Or I'm at risk of it, right? Because now I need to flip long. But it's at the top of the range again, just breaking the trend line, and this could be a fake on the breakout, and then I would lose money again. I'm moving this far away and really just banking that this is just stops being ran and hoping that they're breaking the liquidity zone. They very well could have run stops here to break all this, to take advantage of the liquidity that would have formed underneath this, but I don't know. I'm hoping that's what's happening here now, that maybe it'll tick just above here and then shoot back down and go and get to the bearish side. Don't necessarily know that will happen. It's not something that I normally would look for, but that's kind of the goal of today, is to do what I usually don't do. Or it's not the goal of today. Unfortunately, that's what's been working. And stuff I don't usually do is worked, and stuff that I normally do, like this is what I would normally do, right? And it's not working. Big loss. Oh wow. Strong push there. I don't see that coming back down after a push up like that. And so it's really unfortunate, you know. I spent all this time trying to go long, and it starts forming this downward channel on me. And then I get out only for it to do this, make this move right after I get out of it. Just cut it
Order
off.
filled.
And you see, I don't know how to avoid these types of things happening. When I scalp with 3 contracts, I'm in and out so quickly that I'm not susceptible to any of this stuff. You know, like I would have bought somewhere here and it would have pushed up, and I would have moved my stop up, and either it would have stopped me out for a little bit, or it would have kept forming these bars like this, and I would have just kept following one by one by one until it stopped me out. Whereas when I try to do the one contract and add over like an area, I don't know, it's like I'm adding long. I mean, you can see where I started adding long, right? Like I started going long here. This one was solid, made something, but I start trying to add long here. This is off a bounce, off a pullback. That's not wrong. That's a good entry. It pulls back and comes here again. I had a second one, and it pulls back, and I had a third, and technically my entries are not bad entries, but how am I supposed to? You can't continue to add into a downward channel like this, or how do I know where the end of it is? So I don't know. Not sure how to get around that or how to figure that out. Like I'm pretty positive if I was to put up a MACD here, it would be showing a sell signal, or it would be approaching a sell signal before flipping long like this. Like this buy signal on the MACD probably wouldn't have happened until it was who knows where. I think the next move would be to wait for the pullback either to the high, and then just long it from wherever. I almost wonder if I'm gonna trade with if I'm gonna scale this way rather than looking for entries like I have been. If I just need to say, okay, this is the level, and just set like a static, buy limit example. Like I think it could bounce in this area. Put a buy limit here. I think it could bounce around here as well, probably above VWAP or at the bottom of this range, so somewhere in between the two. And then just adjust my stops to be below VWAP basically. Still coming down. I don't see any reason to buy yet. I really don't have a, like, the delta is just showing only sellers at the moment. See areas where it could bounce but not showing signs of bouncing till now. We'll add one there.
Order filled.
It's early, but we'll add one there. We'll put this under VWAP, and then we'll just set this at levels, or our next buys at levels that just make sense based off of the chart. This thing should be able to catch a bid somewhere in this range, honestly. Here and probably right before VWAP. Put our stops all in roughly the same spot. Don't know what's going on with YouTube.
Order filled.
Gonna go ahead and get in here for a second contract.
Order rejected. Order filled.
Looks like the push may be back on. We'll see. You just look at the hour chart and it's just like this thing should have so much ability to push up. I mean, we've already cracked the 200 EMA at one point in the hour, so getting back there shouldn't be much of an issue. And I really do think it will. It's just a matter of when. Actually, let me take that back. I'll take that back because we've actually rejected the 200 EMA quite strongly a number of times. So we'll see. I think if this doesn't work, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before, because this has just been losing, whereas at least that is more profitable than it's just hard to stay funded that way, but at least it's profitable. This, on the other hand, has been a nightmare. Like, I could say my ads were too early all throughout this, but even if I was adding here and waiting, I still would have been in a lot of pain at the moment regardless. Not to mention that normally I stop at 1500 and I'm already well beyond that. Honestly, beginning to think that the Nasdaq is just too, like an actual NQ, it's just too big to scale properly. Because I've scale traded before when I on like my personal accounts with Thinkorswim, when I would trade MNQ, the micro minis, and with those, when you have like 15 micro mini contracts that you can go into, it's so much easier to scale over a long range. It's like 3 contracts just isn't enough to stomach all the movement. I don't even know how to begin recapping this day. Let's go look at prior. See, this is tough, right? So, assuming I had traded this correctly, I should have added once around here in this whole area, and probably the second contract somewhere around here. But this thing is creating lower highs and lower lows on where I'm adding. So it's like I'm buying things that I shouldn't be buying. So then how do you know when this is going to stop and go back up? You know, there have been other days where the thing just kept trending downwards and never profitable, right? So then how do you know? Or maybe that's it. Maybe you just don't know and it's more about the ratio, right? Like your win loss, not win loss ratio, sorry. Your profit versus loss, your profit loss ratio or risk reward, sorry, that's the term. Risk reward. As much as I'd be glad if this just magically pushed up, it's the fact that my stop wasn't hit here is luck. You know, uh, this is basically where the max drawdown is for the account on the day. I mean, it's a great place to have a stop now because now there's structure there and it makes sense. But beforehand, when this was all happening, to put my stop just here, oh man. Meanwhile, I can probably readjust my watch while this is going on. Market looks like it wants to push up. We'll see if it actually does, if it holds this +1. I swear if my initial entry line could somehow be like a resistance. It seems like more often than not it is. I'm sure there's some psychology to why that consistently seems to be the case. I don't know if these links are removable, honestly. Don't seem to want to slide out. At this point, not much to talk about. The trade will be whatever it will be. Either it will break towards the downside and I'll get stopped out, or it will uh, push back up and go make new highs, or test new highs, right? One of those moments where it's just best to not stress yourself. Just set your stop and your take profit, walk away, come back later, see which side it hit. Yep.
Stop filled.
And there it goes. There's my stop. So to recap the day, kind of a mess of a day, to be honest. Basically, where's the open? Market opens at 8:30. We see a quick sell-off in the morning. That first 15-20 minutes, we see a quick sell-off. It catches a bid at the -3. When I see it catch this bid, it pushes up. I'm thinking, okay, we're starting off in a downtrend. The past couple of days, if we go back and look, the market has been trending, down quite strongly. Remove this. But yeah, the market's been trending down pretty strong. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going to continue the downtrend. So I decided to short here. Unfortunately, that did not work out. I shorted and it pushed against me. At least I did not add on these other points that I could have added at. I didn't add. The market got very bullish, pushed up. I think where this area is here is where the market opened last night. So it's probably a good amount of resistance here, but it pushed up, pushed through. Managed to scale some contracts long there. Normally wouldn't trade at these highs like this. I usually would wait for a pullback, but I decided to change it up. So did that. That worked out. Then had a sell-off on the pullback. Again, usually I like to buy on these pullbacks, and enter and get whatever I can long. Went long, didn't get high enough, came down. On the drop, I added a second contract. As it was pushing up, I decided to take some risk off. So closed one contract, that was fine, closing the one. Up until this point, generally everything is okay. Sometimes moves like this are going to happen, but at this point I was expecting to see the market go long. So took one contract off just to mitigate risk there. On this next pullback, bought another. And I'll be honest, when I was at this point, I was really expecting the market to push up. And so as I was seeing, like, this formed a lower high and a lower low, and then you had another At least it broke this one, but it was still, this is still technically a lower low. I'm sorry, a lower high. If we draw a, where's my box? Here it is. Drawing tools. If you draw a trend line here, you are seeing lower highs, and at the same time, seeing lower lows. Anyway, you can see that it formed a downward channel, and so as I was seeing that, I didn't want to continue holding all through this downward channel, so I got out of it only to have it shoot back up. It forms the lower low and then shoots up. So I got taken out there. This put me down quite a bit, and then at this point I just kind of didn't care anymore, for which is bad. Not a good thing, not a good thing to say, but truthfully I kind of didn't care. Was expecting that this would, if it's gonna push up, then let's push up. Waited for the pullback, entered. The first entry was fine, but these next two contracts were just very aggressive. Um, Technically, I should have added somewhere in this area on the second contract, and the third contract shouldn't be coming in until somewhere around VWAP, and then I should be setting my stop loss just underneath VWAP. So maybe if I had stuck to that, this could end up working out, but just after all the nonsense that I've been seeing, I think I'm just going to write off three contract scaling, or scaling from one contracts up to three. I think I'm just going to write that off and say that, at least for me, it doesn't work. What day is today? Today is Wednesday, so this would have been, we've been a solid week that we've been trading this way, and it's not been working. Yesterday was due solely to cumulative delta throwing me off. The prior couple of days were not because of cumulative delta, but simply stuff like this continue to happen, where you have a downtrend, you're trying to scale in, you either reach the end of where you can scale, or it it just goes the total opposite direction of what you would expect. So not sure what to make of all that, besides to just not do it. I'll probably go back to my three contracts and just scalp with really large size and just get in and get out very quickly, or for the sake of longevity, trade the same way but maybe with two contracts or even just one contract, just to see if I can do that. My apprehension with wanting to trade the way I normally do with one contract is that it would be very slow. I do take my profits very quickly, usually in sometimes seconds. Most of the time it's under a minute. Sometimes it's a little more than that, but usually it's 30-40 seconds I'm in and I'm out. So might come back in tomorrow and do that, but we'll see. At least I know I'm not going to continue trying to scale this way, because it's just not worked for me. But anyway, that's it. Hopefully y'all find some of this stuff informational and helpful, just to see like my thought process and my experience with trading this way. But anyway, that's it. Thanks, and